Good evening, everyone. I thank the Waltham Forest Palestine Solidarity Campaign for having invited me. My English is not good, but I'm going to try to make my presentation in English. An English comrade who lives in France has helped me with the translation. But for the debate, I shall need a translator, and I want to thank Lola. Just to introduce myself, I was born in 1946. I used to work for the Town Hall of Paris, and I'm now retired. I come from a Jewish family which escaped the Nazi Holocaust, and I had a Jewish education up until my bar mitzvah. I want to point out that as a Jew, I had a normal childhood, because at that time the Jewish community did not have paranoid tendencies like today, and my parents did not spend their time nagging me to honor the memory of the Holocaust. I am an activist in the BDS campaign in France, and since 2003 I am a member of UJFP, the French Jewish Peace Union, which supports the rights of the Palestinian people and participates in the BDS campaign. So, I am going to speak to you about the French situation regarding the BDS movement. First, about the French background, and then about the outlook for the future in France and in other countries concerned by BDS. The French background is specific for several reasons. First of all, BDS is a sensitive subject in France because France is the European country which has the largest Jewish population, about 600,000, although the number is difficult to estimate, and also the largest Arab and Arab Muslim population, about 6 million or more, but that is also difficult to estimate. Now I am going to speak about, on one hand, the weaknesses of BDS in France, and on the other hand, the good potential that exists there for the movement. First, the weak points. In France, there is an aggressive Zionist lobby which is attacking the BDS movement. There is at the same time a difficult situation because of the general attacks on civil liberties under the guise of fighting terrorism, combined with the so-called state of emergency. The Zionist lobby is, on one side, composed of the body that calls itself the CRIF, whose acronym means the Representative Council of Jewish Institutions of France, together with Zionist entities that bring legal charges against BDS activists. And on the other side, we have the French government. The government considers the CRIF as its official partner representing the Jewish community in France, whereas in fact this body, which represents only a small part of the Jewish community, is just a conveyor belt for Israeli policies. The majority of the Jewish French population is certainly Zionist, but there is a diversity of opinions within it, just as there is within any other population. And the UJFP, to which I belong, represents a minority current of opinion, but it is not a tiny one. It is important to separate the CRIF and the government because nothing forces the French government to develop a Zionist policy. To believe that the government is obliged to obey the CRIF would reinforce anti-Semitic conspiracy theories according to which the Jews try to dominate the world. I want to underline the influence wielded in France by the LICRA, the International League Against Racism and Anti-Semitism. The LICRA is so-called anti-racist NGO, but in reality it attacks BDS in the courts, and it will do so again in a trial to be held in the month of June in the town Toulouse. The LICRA is the government's favorite partner on anti-racism issues. Our government, run by the supposedly Socialist Party, and especially our Prime Minister Manuel Valls, conflates anti-Zionism and BDS with anti-Semitism, and it does not reject the conflation with terrorism that is made by the Israeli government. Generally speaking, the nature of the attacks on BDS in France, which fully fits in with the attacks on civil liberties, is either to try to state that BDS is illegal or to denounce BDS. BDS is presented as anti-Semitic and as an obstacle to a just peace between Israelis and Palestinians. The aim of these attacks is to intimidate the BDS activists and to make the public believe that BDS is illegal. In some municipalities, the goal is to forbid any municipal body to provide services such as room for public meetings that could be useful for the BDS campaign. In February 2010, Mrs. Alliot-Marie, the Justice Minister at the time, sent out a circular called the Alliot-Marie Circular to all the public prosecutors, urging them to pursue activists who call for boycotting Israeli goods. But the circular is not a law, and most of the judges didn't implement the circular. In October 2015, a ruling by the Court of Cassation, the highest French court, confirmed a judgment that had condemned the boycott of Israeli goods. This ruling states that boycotting Israeli goods discriminates against the producers and suppliers belonging to a nation, that is to say the Israeli so-called nation. Last March, another ruling by the Court of Cassation confirmed the conviction of different groups of activists for this reason, and also for hindering the freedom to trade. But these are only two rulings by the Court of Cassation. Previous rulings by this court declared that the boycott is not illegal because it is a form of freedom of expression, and the majority of the trials resulted in acquittals. In fact, there is no law in France against BDS, so BDS is not illegal. Another weak point in the French context is the negative evolution of the intellectual elite. Whereas for a long time, the intellectual scene in France was marked by prominent anti-colonial figures, today that scene is dominated by Zionist or Islamophobic intellectuals who all speak with one voice. The phenomenon doesn't only concern views about Israel and Palestine, it is a part of what can be called society's shift to the right. But the BDS campaign in France isn't just about its weak points, it's also about its good potentiality. This is what I am going to bring up now. The basic strong point is that in the French population there is a real empathy for the Palestinian people. One can say that the average French person is more sensitive to the Palestinian cause than the dangerousness cause and to the dangerousness of the state of Israel than the average politician, who is much more timid. When we carry out actions in open public spaces, a lot of people display their sympathy. They readily sign petitions of solidarity or petition denouncing the policy of Israel and its allies, and they defend us if we are verbally attacked by Zionists. A poll showed that 2/3 of the French have a negative image of Israel. And when people are asked which states they consider to be the most dangerous in the world, the majority put Israel in the top group. It's clear that there is a real resistance to the repressive measures in France against BDS. One of the hundreds complaints that were filed against activists, the majority were dismissed and no follow-up action was taken. And when cases did come to court, the majority have resulted in acquittals. Following the ruling by the Court of Cassation, which upheld the conviction of activists in the town Mulhouse region, BDS action have nevertheless been able to continue. This would not have been possible if the majority of the French population supported Israel's policies. In addition, the victories achieved by the BDS campaign in France are not to be underestimated. BDS France largely contribute to the collapse of the Israel food and vegetable exporter Agrexco and to the victories against SodaStream. SodaStream was barred from exhibiting at an ecological fair, and it was recently removed from the list of the sponsors of the International Comic Festival in the town Angoulême. We played a part in bringing to end the agreement between the telephone company Orange and the Israeli company Partner Communication, and also in Veolia total withdrawal from Israel. Two companies have cancelled their participation in the funicular railway design to link illegal colonies to Jerusalem after being warned by the French Ministry of Finance and Foreign Affairs, as well as by the Solidarity movement, about the legal problem and the risk involved. We have also achieved victory on the cultural boycott front. In France, there is a large potential for mobilizing support, notably among young people with an immigrant background. For these young people, who often suffer from racist policy and in the poor suburbs, the Palestinian people are a symbol and at the same time a true example of the oppressed. The Palestinians have for a long time been victims of colonial policies, and the young of immigrant origin often suffer for the consequence of the French colonial policy, past and present. In the situation of distress and political confusion that exists in France today, many people who once belonged to a political party now prefer to engage primarily in the BDS campaign. I don't want to judge their behavior. I am just reporting on this situation. These activists say to us, with BDS, at least I know what I'm fighting for. In the same time, a lot of people who were really involved in collective actions or who jumped around between various humanitarian causes are now taking the plunge and getting involved in the BDS movement. They tell us that this type of grassroots, anti-racist and non-violent movement suits them very well. One important element is that BDS resonates with some major causes in France. Anti-racism. What is at stake, not only in Israel and Palestine, but also in France, is the ability to live together in equality and justice, whatever our origin may be, and the rejection of the clash of civilization ideology. Anti-colonialism. France has a long history of colonial policies and anti-colonial movements, and the Israeli policy against the Palestinian people is the longest contemporary colonial war which directly concerns the Western world. The value of justice, freedom and equality in general symbolized by the Palestinian people, whether it be in the world of war or in society as a whole. The anti-war movement, because Israel is a danger to world peace, and because in France we have to struggle against a very war-mongering government that is a friend of Israel. All of this context makes BDS in France an engagement not only to support another people, but also a domestic engagement for French society. It is up to us to put in place or to invent persuasive methods to develop this engagement so that it takes root in the population. I am going to finish my talk by talking about the outlook for future for the BDS movement, both in France and in other countries where BDS is having an impact. I spoke earlier about the different successes in France that the BDS movement participated in. But there have been many other big victories in other countries, like your own victory against G4S, which is only a small company in France. In its first 10 years, the BDS movement has achieved more victories worldwide than those that were achieved during the first 10 years of the boycott campaign against South Africa. And the impact of those victories is encouraging. Israel exports are starting to fall, whether we look at settlement products or even arm industry, except in Europe where the Israeli export of arms is increasing. Foreign investment is dropping too. For example, in 2014, investment were 46% lower than in 2013. Even the Palestinians themselves in the occupied territories have diminished their imports from Israel, which were 24% lower in 2015 than in 2014. And the UN Human Rights Council, which condemned the colonization, decided that last month to draw up a blacklist of companies operating in the occupied territories. The success of cultural, academic and trade union boycotts worries Israel just as much as the economic boycott because they undermine the state credibility. Of course, it's too soon to declare victory because the Israeli economy is still strong, and so is Israel's capacity for aggression along with that of its allies. The Israeli economy is strong, especially because its sale of equipment used for repression, and Israel highlights the fact that this equipment has been tested on the Palestinians. Nevertheless, the international campaign for an embargo on the arms trade with Israel is making progress. Netanyahu's government has created a structure that is in charge of actively fighting against BDS. It functions within the Ministry of Strategic Affairs and is actual a department of that ministry. The staff who run it are either military personnel or former agents of the intelligence services. Its mission is to gather any useful information on the way in which BDS is carried out in the countries where the movement is active, to analyze its activities, to know who the principal activists are, and above all, to draw up an anti-boycott strategy with the help of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. People are being paid by Israel to monitor the social networks, and a team of speakers will be established to go around American university campuses in order to praise the virtues of the so-called only democracy in the Middle East. Israel is trying desperately to get BDS banned in various countries or to curtail it, not only in France but also in other countries, including your own, the United States and Canada. An international anti-BDS conference took place recently in Jerusalem. A transatlantic trade treaty known as the TTIP is currently being negotiated between the European Union and the USA. And it has been proposed to include in that treaty a clause which would prohibit any economic negotiation between an American partner and a European partner that would discriminate against Israel, or that would support or promote or participate in any initiative to boycott, divesting or sanction Israel. In other words, a formal and explicit rejection of BDS would be an absolute condition for the signature of the treaty. But we can see that in spite of all these things, the progress of BDS is unstoppable and that Israel's unpopularity continues to grow. The accusation of anti-Semitism that are leveled at BDS activists don't work anymore, and international public opinion has now understood that this horrible accusation is only an attempt to distract attention from the crushing of the Palestinian people. Israel cannot continue with its policy indefinitely. Its economy is under pressure, its tourist industry is weakening in spite of all the publicity campaigns to promote it. Its military expenses are colossal compared to the social needs of the country. Migration balance is at zero level, and Israel's image is worse than ever when it comes to global public opinion. BDS is a powerful commitment to justice, freedom, and equality, and it's a clear and necessary commitment in this worrying period linked to the consequence of international tension that we live in. It's a moral and political duty. And just like the apartheid that was brought to an end in South Africa, Israeli apartheid will also come to an end. Thank you.
Catch up on time. We're actually ahead of time, so like you, I think we'll all be very encouraged by what Jean-Guy has said about the increasing support, sympathy, empathy for the Palestinian people. I think those of us who've been in this movement for many years, in fact been in the labour movement or the socialist movement for many years, have seen the shift. It's been gradual, it's accelerating, and it's very hopeful from our point of view. Okay, since we are doing well with time, I'd like to suggest that for the first 10 minutes or so, we take direct questions, either to Mike or to Jean-Guy, and then when those have petered out, as they inevitably will, people who want to make contributions will be free to do so. So first of all, any direct questions to Mike or to Jean-Guy? Yes, please, go
Thank you
ahead.
very much. I have a question for Mike and I have a question for Guy. Mike, can I refer you to the apartheid war? Can I ask you if you can remember the reason why the wall was built?
Would you like to put both questions and then...
Oh, I beg your pardon.
That's fine, so I'm sure Mike's taking note of that one.
You referred to the success of BDS. The closure of SodaStream in Israel-Palestine has resulted in 72 Palestinians losing their jobs. Is that something you wanted to achieve? The second question, if I may, Guy, is if BDS is about trying to stop exports coming from Israel, would you be also including all the pharmaceutical and technology production that's coming out of Israel that is not only saving lives, but it's helping the world carry on? Or is it just focused on the farming element?
Shall I let Mike answer first and then give Jean-Guy time to make sure he's understood the question?
Yeah, I remember why the wall was built. I remember the published arguments, and I remember how we actually analysed what we saw happening. I didn't see a wall built on the Green Line, which might have been one response. I saw a wall built deep within Palestinian territory, separating children from their schools, farmers from their fields, families from the other parts of their families. Now it's important to realise that there was a wave of direct violent action going on. That petered out, and it didn't peter out because of the war, because it petered out while the war was very, very partial, where you could easily abide. Anyone who wanted to blow up a bomb or do a shooting could easily have walked around the small bits of wall that existed. What happened was the Palestinians themselves realised that that form of struggle was not being effective. Also, much more effective for the Israelis than the wall was a policy of informers and of bribes to people to say, if you want your mother to get hospital treatment, then if you let me know what's going on in your street, your mother will get the hospital place. Now that was what was effective. The wall was never effective, although it was very effective in grabbing water, grabbing land, and grabbing resources.
So it didn't stop the death of 400 years.
Three questions. So let's hear Jean-Guy's answer, which is the other questions for Jean-Guy were to do with the loss of Palestinian jobs at SodaStream, when it moved its unit into Israel 48, and the question of whether the boycott should also encompass Israeli products which are in the health sphere or otherwise beneficial in some way or another. Is that okay? There we go. So when you're ready, Jean-Guy. And if you want to speak in French, Jean-Guy, I'm sure Lola can translate. So short bits and let's know.
So I answer in French and Lola translate. Je parle quand même dans le micro. Quand je parle en français, je pense que c'est mieux. Voilà. Alors, par rapport à SodaStream, oui, il y avait des ouvriers palestiniens dans l'usine en Cisjordanie, mais la campagne de boycott d'Israël a été décidée par les Palestiniens eux-mêmes, et de même que le boycott de l'Afrique du Sud à l'époque de l'apartheid avait été décidé par la population noire sud-africaine. C'est-à-dire que les peuples opprimés sont prêts à consentir à des sacrifices pour vaincre leur ennemi. Et donc les Palestiniens assument tout à fait le fait que des usines, des implantations coloniales en Cisjordanie ferment. C'est pas la question Et eux, les Palestiniens veulent être indépendants, ils veulent maîtriser leur destin. Ils ne veulent plus être dominés par la puissance israélienne. Donc, que les Palestiniens se retrouvent au chômage après la fermeture d'une usine dans les colonies, c'est pas du tout leur problème.
Concerning the question about SodaStream, yeah, there were Palestinian workers working in the factory in the West Bank, in the SodaStream factory, but BDS was a campaign that was created and is led by Palestinians. It was a choice of the Palestinians, just like in South Africa, the black South African people chose to create and lead the boycott campaign. And so in both cases, the oppressed people are the main motivation in the campaign, and the Palestinians have the aim of becoming independent. They want to lift Israeli oppression, and therefore 72 workers losing their job is not their problem on the long term.
Maintenant, je réponds par rapport aux entreprises israéliennes de pharmacie, de technologie, qui sont des entreprises prestigieuses. Il faut quand même s'entendre sur quelle société on veut, quel monde on veut. D'abord, les entreprises israéliennes ne sont pas uniques sur sur le courant de la pharmacie, de la technologie. Il y a dans d'autres pays des entreprises prestigieuses aussi. Mais le point essentiel, c'est dans quel monde voulons-nous vivre? Est-ce que nous voulons vivre dans un monde avec des industries en pointe, mais où une grande partie de l'humanité est dominée et opprimée, n'a pas droit à la parole? C'est ça la question. La question qui nous guide dans notre soutien au peuple palestinien, c'est notre volonté de justice et d'égalité. Et peu importe le niveau économique atteint par la puissance qui opprime le peuple palestinien. Il vaut mieux vivre dans l'égalité et la justice, même s'il y a des ressources technologiques qui ne sont pas poussées jusqu'au bout. Le plus important, c'est la justice dans le monde.
The Israeli pharmaceutical and technology companies are indeed prestigious and very successful, but we have to come to an agreement on what kind of world we want. The Israeli companies in these two industries are not unique. There are lots of other prestigious companies in other countries, also in pharmaceutical and technology fields. And the larger question, and the more important question, is what kind of world do we want? Where do we want a world where the majority of the people are dominated and oppressed? With BDS, we're seeking a world of justice and equality, and it's much more important than what could come out of the pharmaceutical and technology industries in Israel.
If I may just make an observation on that point, one thing people often don't realise about the boycott, divestment and sanctions movement is it is a tactic adopted by an oppressed people and those who are in solidarity with them around the world. It's not an unrealistic attempt to boycott absolutely everything that comes out of Israel. That would be quite absurd. So it's a question that supporters of Israel like to raise from time to time, that we should be grateful to Israel for its great benefits to mankind, but there are greater crimes being committed. Sorry, I won't abuse my position in the chair anymore. Yes, over there. Would you want to do something?
No, that's all right.
Thank you for coming.
Recently,
Shalom.
recently extreme loyalty, really over the top, to the Israeli government. That's part of their campaign to get elected, and they're doing that. I wonder if across the channel, Marine Le Pen has done the same thing.
Translation.
En France, donc Marine Le Pen est la présidente du Front National, extrême droite. Son père est connu pour être antisémite. Et donc Marine Le Pen, pour gagner les électeurs, essaye d'avoir une image différente de son père. Mais la question de fond, c'est que c'est aussi une option politique de sa part, hein, parce que, en fin de compte, il y a quelque chose de semblable entre Israël et Marine Le Pen, c'est que les deux sont très très contre le monde musulman. Les deux sont dans l'idéologie du clash des civilisations. Les deux sont dans l'idéologie qu'il y aurait d'un côté des blancs éduqués, civilisés, et de l'autre côté un monde qui abrite des gens suspects, des terroristes, où il y a beaucoup de musulmans, beaucoup d'arabes. Eh bien ça, c'est un point commun très important entre Marine Le Pen et le gouvernement d'Israël, et de même le gouvernement d'Israël a reçu des politiciens d'extrême droite d'autres pays européens. Donc voilà, ça c'est une évolution historique. L'État d'Israël est devenu un État qui est à l'avant-garde du choc des civilisations de ce monde-là. Et dans ce monde-là, il y a les politiciens conservateurs classiques, mais il y a aussi les gens d'extrême droite qui avant étaient réputés surtout antisémites.
In France, Marine Le Pen is the president of the National Front, the extreme right party, and her father was known to be anti-Semite. Marine, from her part, to win the electorate, is trying to have a different image from her father. It's a political choice from her part. But nevertheless, there is a similarity between Marine Le Pen and Israel. Both of them are very much against the Muslim world. They have this ideology of the clash of civilizations, where on one side of the world there's the white, educated, civilized societies, and on the other side there's the suspect societies, the potential terrorists with lots of Arabs and Muslims included. And it's a strange historical twist that now Israel has a similar discourse to the extreme right throughout Europe.